Good morning, Bishop Snazy, Rio, Texas Conference. It's really good to be with you this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stan White, and I'm honored to share just a few thoughts with you this morning. I think it goes without saying that we find ourselves in the midst of a tough and trying season. And that's true with respect to our nation, our community, and especially our churches. I think the greatest majority of us feel somewhat overwhelmed by the issues and the situations that we find ourselves facing. And so when Bishop Snazy asked me if I might speak to the ideas of what's breaking my heart and what's giving me hope, my first inclination was to step back and seek to find clarity in how I might most honestly answer those questions. If I had to break it down to the one thing that's breaking my heart, I'd have to say that it's the disunity and space that I find within our church, my church, the church that I grew up in and developed and sought to mature my faith. For me, one of the greatest assets and characteristics of the United Methodist Church has always been its diversity. Coming from a small rural town in South Mississippi, my roots are pretty conservative and traditional. And as I gathered the theological and ideological table with colleagues and friends and those within the churches that I served, it's been good for me to be challenged and also to defend my experiences and understanding of God. I value so much the journey I've had with those whose perspectives and beliefs are different from mine. And God has used many within the church to help me see those places in my faith that I needed to grow, areas that I could expand my boundaries of grace. For me, the diversity and differing perspectives that we have at the table have been vital in allowing me and the church to converse and wrestle and seek to grow into who God calls us to be. Knowing all that, I'm greatly saddened by what seems to be a lack of perceived common ground within our church. It's as if the United Methodist Church has experienced this loss of innocence, like the die has been cast and our story written. There are just so many issues that are dividing us: racism, human sexuality, our response to the pandemic, an election that looms just over a month away. And in all of these areas, I have folks that I love on both sides. People who are hurting, people who are tired, people frustrated. And it seems like the greatest desire for many is just to find some place of resolution. I guess my fear is that there's no real resolution to many of these issues, and I lament that we have lost the space for conversations, for connection. It just makes me sad and really breaks my heart. Turning to the issue of hope, I am pretty sure that my thoughts will line up with many across our annual conference. I've been amazed and excited to see and be a part of a new energy and initiative within our church. In the past, the view and tendency of our church has been one of stability over change, tradition versus growth. But what's happened with the coming of the pandemic has really provided me a sense of hope and optimism in so many areas. Since March, I've witnessed the transformation that is nothing short of miraculous in the way our churches have embraced and adapted how the church functions, how we worship, how we reach out to the world around us through technology and innovation. I don't think any one of us could have ever imagined how something as difficult and devastating as the last 8 months could have brought about such an opportunity for change within our churches and the kingdom of God. I guess for most of us, we've been surprised, although we shouldn't be. It brings to mind Paul's words in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verses 8 and 9. I'll read from the New Living Translation. Here Paul says, We think you ought to know, dear brothers and sisters, about the trouble we went through in the province of Asia. We were crushed and overwhelmed beyond our ability to endure. And when we thought we would never live through it, in fact, we expected to die, but as a result, we stopped relying on ourselves and learned to rely only on God, who raises the dead. So this morning, I am hopeful. I'm hopeful in knowing that God does God's greatest work in times of hardship. I'm hopeful in the fact that it's in our times of greatest uncertainty that we most often learn to lean more fully on God. And I'm hopeful in the reality that even as our world is mired in the chaos and the trouble that it's facing, God is faithful. And there's no better opportunity for God to do something unexpected, miraculous, and transformational than now. And so I can say, even in the midst of my sadness, along with all my concerns, even so, it's well with my soul. Thank you, Bishop, and thanks to you, delegates. May God bless and keep you all.